I've had migraines where I really was crying out to God, just kill me now. Just take me now. It made sense to me because I was having improvements, but I wasn't woohoo like some people. Fantastic for them, but that wasn't my experience.
So a few days ago, I saw a question on social media asking if anyone had experience with low oxalate and migraines and the effect of low oxalate diet on migraines. And I thought I needed to interview my wife because she suffered from migraines since she was 8. And she's been on the most low oxalate diet you can think of because she's been carnivore now for 7 months. So I thought I would put together a few questions and see what she would say. And if you suffer from migraines and if you're interested to know about her experience, just stick around till the end because we're going to answer lots of questions. And remember to subscribe, give us a thumbs up, a like, and share it with anyone that you know has migraine because there's some good materials in here.
The first question I would like to ask you is, who are you and why did you start Carnivore?
My name is Esther. I'm 64 years old. I started Carnivore, in support of my wife, who was very, very ill. And I thought, why not? That's the one diet I haven't tried. So let's go for the ride. And that was 6 months ago, a little over 6 months ago now. In the beginning, I wasn't sure what to expect. I kind of figured it would be a little bit like the keto, woohoo, you feel great, which we did. I felt really good for about a week and a half. And then I started dumping oxalates, which I knew nothing about until we started Carnivore. And then I did not feel well for a very, very long time. But I stuck with it because, my wife was really, really sick and I needed to support her. And then by that point, I had binge watched Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Anthony Chafee, discovered Terry Mann, Homesteading How, was watching Bill Knott's journey and listening to more and more people talk about the benefits they were receiving. So I was pretty much walking in faith that I would be receiving benefits. And I did. Aside from feeling really terrible from the oxalate dumping, it's a horrendously terrible experience to have that headache and the malaise. I was experiencing tons of benefits. What got better was my sleep, which had been really bad for a very long time. My sleep improved. Not the sleeping through the night, but initially when I did fall asleep, I was getting real rest for the first time in a very long time. I had a shoulder injury shoulder complex injury I'd had for a very, very long time. I'd been to osteopaths and chiropractors and physical therapy for years. It was getting worse and worse and worse. I was having my fingers going numb at night, my arm going numb. I was having nerve pain up my arm. All of that disappeared in the second week. And then I really started believing that this is something I really need to stick with because that must have been inflammation. And I started having a lot of small little things happen that I didn't even know was wrong with me per se, like swelling. I had very slight swelling around my ankles, which I didn't realize they were swollen, but they were because the swelling went away. I had what I believe now was the beginning of arthritis in my hands, but because it wasn't really bad, it wasn't really affecting my activities of daily living, I didn't really notice it until it was gone. And then I noticed, wow, I can move my fingers very freely. The strength returned to my hand also, which was quite interesting. I lost some weight, not a ton, which was nice. I didn't feel bloated. All of my IBS symptoms went away. By the end of the first week, I no longer had gas, which I was like seriously a gas machine. It was kind of a joke between my wife and I. Literally, I would get up and I would serenade her with my farts. That all disappeared completely. Loose bowels disappeared. My bowel movements became really nice. They were solid and formed and regular. I've had a little bit of constipation here and there, but I think that's when I haven't drank enough water. But as far as the intestinal area has been like, wow, I wasn't expecting that. That was really an unexpected bonus. I have good guts again. I've had migraines my whole life. I remember the first one I remember, I was about 8 years old, and it was right after eating Aunt Jemima boxed pancakes and Aunt Jemima syrup. I did not grow up in a family that ate boxed food, so it was like a treat that my dad would buy something like that. I grew up eating actually a very, meat, vegetables, no sodas, drinking milk. We did eat bread. Compared to most Americans, I grew up in America, and that we had a very good whole food diet. So when we had something like Aunt Jemima box pancake mix, it was a big deal for us kids. And I remember having the pancakes right before I had to go to catechism class, and I got so sick. My head hurt. I was sick to my stomach. I was dizzy. I went through the day, kind of powered through the day, but that was my first recollection of the very first migraine I ever had. And I had them regularly throughout my youth. After that, whenever I would eat anything with a lot of sugar, candy or anything else, that would trigger a migraine. By the time I hit my adolescence, the migraine started coming with my period. So I would get a migraine probably the week before my period. And then it started with my ovulation, and it progressed. By the time I was in my 20s, I was having sometimes a week, a migraine that would end. I'd get over it, and then I would have another migraine. So literally I would spend an entire week out of the month with a migraine, but usually no less than 4 migraines a month throughout my young adulthood. Migraines would range from completely debilitating, where I really couldn't function, to where I would, what I call, power through. They were mild migraines. Somehow I learned to adapt and go to school and work when I felt sick. But pretty much my whole life. The only time I didn't have migraines was when I was pregnant, remarkably enough. I think I had one migraine throughout both of my pregnancies. It was my first pregnancy, and it was because I was on a boat, 7 months pregnant, fishing on a little boat, and I think I got kind of seasick, which triggered off a migraine. But remarkably, when I was pregnant, I did not have migraines. Now, looking back, when I was pregnant, I also didn't eat sugar. I lived off of cottage cheese, ground beef. I was almost carnivore when I think back, because that's all I craved. And then I would think I want to have a treat, but I wouldn't. I kind of now in retrospect connect that to sugar. Like that was a big trigger for my migraines, probably wheat too. But
I have seen many versions of migraines, and I can personally say that it's horrendous to watch someone go through that. I've seen you curled up in bed with 3 packs of ice around your head and pitch darkness. I think that people that do not suffer from migraine do not understand, and the way you talk about it often sounds like it's just a migraine. I mean, it is from this slide, but I'd really like you to express how it feels to be in that body that is so debilitated by pain that I've seen you go to the bathroom on all 4s.
yeah, I've crawled to the bathroom. I guess I've had them my whole life, so I feel like it's just a part of my life. I've had migraines where I really was crying out to God, just kill me now. Just take me now. Because it's such a sick feeling. It's not just that your head is splitting open. It's not just that you can't hear because sound does crazy things to your brain, or the light is just insanely painful, but there's a sick feeling on a really bad migraine that is indescribable unless you've had it, where you just feel so sick. And that's why they used to call them in the old days sick headaches. Migraines were not called migraines, I don't know, 150 years ago. They were called sick headaches. And it is because you feel so sick. You feel just sick, like you just want to die. And there's degrees of it, because some migraines aren't as bad, but it's a migraine. And migraines, for me, always had the potential to become super, super bad. If I was not able to stop what I was doing in time, or to ice my head, or to do any one of a number of things that I would do to keep them from getting bad, some migraines will spiral out of control. And you feel it happening. It's just this, I don't know, it's a sick feeling you have, like your whole body is just sick. And yeah, they're bad. And I feel for anybody who has ever had a migraine. I don't wish it upon anyone.
And how long would they last?
Normally they last a day, like a full day, like 24 hours, not like a few hours. I'm not a person that has a migraine for a little while. I get a migraine. Usually I'll wake up with them, and it progressively gets worse. So like by the time morning really hits, I'm suffering. Yeah, usually a full 24 hours. Usually by the next morning they would be better. But I've had migraines that have lasted 3 days, and that was regular for me to have a 3-day migraine. And you're just exhausted by the end of that. And then there's the hangover after the migraine, which is the migraine goes away, all the symptoms go away, and then literally I would feel like I was hungover from alcohol. I was not able to think clearly. I couldn't hear. I couldn't keep up. Fast movement is hard. So it's not just the migraine. I call it the migraine hangover, which usually would last a day to a day and a half before I would start feeling normal again.
So I wanted to ask you, you said you suffered from so many migraines, and I'm sure you did try everything you could to get rid of them, given how severe they were. So what kind of intervention did you have? Did you go to the doctor? Did you take different medicine? What approaches, like, I don't know, physical therapy? What did you try?
Well, definitely physical stuff, because I'm much more into that than pharmaceuticals. So I went to chiropractors and had regular chiropractic adjustments throughout my entire adult life. At certain points, I think it helped more than at other points, but definitely chiropractic. I tried several different medications with varying results. The side effects are pretty brutal. Emitrex is the one that is the big migraine medication that most people get for migraines. And Imitrex, if you take it early on in the migraine, will abort the migraine. However, the side effects from Imitrex, if you've ever taken it, you know that you feel stupid. It gives you incredible brain fog. It's really difficult to function. So when I was working in my job, which was very demanding, and I took the Imitrex, I could not perform my job. I could perform my job better with the migraine than I could with the medication. So I, at that point, stopped trying. But before that, I took Cafregart, which was a caffeine. That actually helped. Caffeine is probably the one thing that helps, that for me has helped migraines if I take it early enough in the migraine. And that did help, but then it stops helping. You know, it helps for a little bit, and then it kind of loses its efficacy, and you're back to square one. I used to pound ibuprofen, which also sometimes if I took enough ibuprofen early enough in the migraine, I could stop it from becoming like super bad. But even that stops working as well. It's only to help alleviate the symptoms. It does not get rid of migraines. It just helps you to get through it. And the side effects I found were worse. And I took, I think, Elavil at one point, and I can't remember what that was. That also did not help. There were a couple of things that weren't actually migraine medicines, but neurological medications. And I always had pretty serious side effects from them, to where I could not function in my daily life from them in a way that I needed to. My dietary changes, I could write an encyclopedia of everything. That's where I really did the most for my migraines. I became a vegetarian as a teenager for the first time, because I had read about that helping migraines, and it really didn't. I was a vegetarian probably 50% of the time throughout my adulthood, where I've been, and except for the last like 10 years, where I would try being a vegetarian, then I would go back to eating meat. I even tried being a vegan. But when I was a teenager, I think I was a vegetarian for 2 or 3 years, and then I kind of got bored with it. And
did it help?
It did not help migraines. Nothing I did helped the migraines. I tried being a vegan in my late 20s, and I tried being a vegan because my piano teacher, my kid's piano teacher, was a vegan, and she had said, "Oh, that'll probably help your migraines." And so I tried that, and I was a good vegan. I wasn't eating junk food. I was eating a lot of lentils and beans and rice, and this was quite a few years back when being a vegan was not a thing. And all that happened was I lost a ton of weight, and I became emaciated, and I did not stop having migraines, but I did get sick. And then I gave up being a vegan. I went back to eating eggs and cheese and dairy. I'm not sure I went back to eating meat at that point. I think it took me a little bit longer to get back to eating meat, but tried that. I've gone off of dairy, also without any results. It did not affect my migraines. I went off of all dairy at various points in my adulthood, where I would try, okay, maybe this time it helps. That did not help. I tried a raw food diet for a few weeks. That also was not effective, and I was hungry all the time, so I gave that up. I couldn't eat enough to stay full. But I tried that. So many things over the years.
What about a paleo diet or a keto diet? Did you ever try those?
Yes, I went, actually at one point in my very early adulthood, to lose weight, I did the Atkins diet, which was pretty much a carnivore diet, and I felt really good. I remember I lost a lot of weight and I felt really good, but of course it was unhealthy and everybody told me you're going to die if you eat that way. But I do remember that year, because I did it for a very long time, I felt really, really good. But it was a long time ago. There wasn't a lot of science, and there was a lot of people bashing on the Atkins and how unhealthy it is and you can't live that way. And so I ended up giving it up, and of course gained all the weight back as soon as I added carbs back in. But I really went full on understanding what was going on with keto about 8 years ago now, maybe 7 years ago. After reading Dr. Fung's books and knowing somebody was doing the ketogenic diet, and I went keto, and I had very good results. And I think my headaches did improve during that period of time. I think I was really down to maybe one headache a month. It really did reduce quite a bit. I was still having them, and some of them were quite bad still. But I think that it absolutely did help, but it helped with a lot of other things. I lost weight. My blood sugar swings were gone. I'd stopped having cravings. I did make the mistake of having a lot of keto snacks and having a lot of almond flour, which I know is now loaded in oxalates. So that's probably part of why I got loaded up on oxalates, was during my keto phase. Up until the carnivore diet was probably one of the best things I had done for my migraines.
And so since you started the carnivore diet, how is it going with your migraines?
The migraines, fantastic. I did have a headache, which was borderline migraine-like in the beginning when I was dumping oxalates. It wasn't a real migraine, though. Migraines have an aura to them. They have this quality that unless you've experienced it, it's really hard to describe. And these headaches I was having was not that. They felt kind of sick, like a migraine, but not quite. Once that cleared up, which was about 6 weeks into carnivore, I have had 2 very mild migraines in that period of time, which is probably the lowest amount of migraines I think I've ever had in my life. I do want to say something about migraines, though, that did help. When I understood about neurotoxins, and I got rid of all the neurotoxins that were in my house from scented candles, from cleaning products, from all those things, that was one of the best things I did to reduce the migraines. And I did that at some point in my 50s. So it's been about 20 years ago that I did like a whole house detox. It did not get rid of it completely. I can have a migraine triggered by nail polish. I can have a migraine triggered from someone's perfume. It does seem, since I've been carnivore, that when I am encountering those things in my daily life or out, I don't have that potential migraine flare up, which is always really scary for me. Because you can't always control what's in the environment around you when you walk into a store, or, even out in public, standing next to somebody who's got a very strong perfume that is just loaded with something that my body doesn't like. That can be a migraine trigger. And that seems to have been really reduced since the carnivore diet.
You said that a perfume or the light, but especially smells can trigger a migraine. I mean, considering that, as you said, you can't control what people put on their body or the smells you can encounter. It must be really stressful to live knowing that whenever you go out in the world, something can happen to trigger your migraine.
Yeah, the world is full of neurotoxins. When I studied that, I was shocked by how many things have neurotoxins in them. And I did a house cleanse. I got rid of everything in my house that I could control. I stopped using any perfumed laundry products, soaps, shampoos, all those things. They had to have essential oils or no fragrances, because fragrances can have a number, thousands of different ingredients that they don't have to disclose what they are, and they're all extremely toxic to the brain, extremely toxic to us. It's stressful to not be able to control your environment. Fortunately, now workplaces have become very sensitive to that, where perfumes aren't allowed and things have been reduced, but it's difficult, because you don't know when something could trigger you. Fumes. At one point, gasoline. I couldn't put gas in my car for a few years. That would trigger.
Would you tell someone that is on the fence, that suffers from migraine, whether they should try it out or not?
Oh,
What would you say?
absolutely.
Yeah.
I would say try it. I would say do it for 90 days. Don't do it for 30. Don't do it for 60. Give it 90 days. And at 90 days, even if you're still having migraines, you probably will have experienced so many benefits that you think, oh, I'm going to keep going. Because I think that the older we get, probably the more certain things have built up in our bodies. And in the beginning of Carnivore, I watched a lot of videos, really binge watched. And I wasn't really hearing too much about people my age and how long it took before you felt good. It was probably 4 months into Carnivore where I finally saw some interviews with the women that were a little bit older that were saying a year. That it took them a year before they were feeling well. And that it made sense to me because I was having improvements, but I wasn't woohoo like some people. That fantastic for them, but that wasn't my experience. But I do know that the direction I was going with my health was probably going to result in a very compromised elder life, which I don't really want to have.
Anything else you'd like to tell someone that suffers from migraines and might want to make big changes?
Yeah, try it out. Get rid of the neurotoxins in your house, and at the very least, get rid of the gluten in your diet and dairy possibly, because I know dairy, I've talked to other migraine sufferers that dairy is a trigger for them. It isn't a trigger for me, but I would say try at least those two things and the sugar. Get rid of all processed foods and sugar, even if you're not ready to commit to full carnivore. Get rid of the bad fats. Add some good fats in your diet. Seed oils, seed oils, seed oils. Make sure that nothing goes in here that has seed oils, because our body doesn't know what to do with it, and who knows how long it takes for that stuff to get out. But good fats to help with the brain. The brain runs on fat, and I know that since I increased the fat, especially recently as a carnivore, I increased the fat in my diet quite a bit. My cognitive flexibility, my cognitive ability to process information and to remember has really improved quite a bit. So I'm looking forward to seeing where I'm at a year.
Well, thank you very much for your words. I'm sure there's lots of people out there that can't wait to get this information, and I'm sure this is going to help quite a bit of people.
I hope so.
Thank you.
Thanks.